many people want to do their part to try to help the environment and believe that their plastic alternatives are beneficial to the environment, but are these alternatives, such as degradable plastics, really helpful?
That's a good question. Because yes, I mean, we know plastics, I hope most people know that plastics can be problematic. We know that, I mean, it's everywhere now. So, but it's the issue with plastics has always been the single-use issue with them, that, you know, you use a product once and you dispose of it, and it's, you know, a certain proportion ends up in the environment. And so that's always been the issue in terms of, you know, plastics and their longevity and causing, you know, the problems that we talked about to wildlife. So there's been some alternatives to plastic that have come onto the market in recent years. And so they're labelled as degradable plastics, environmentally friendly plastics, bioplastics. There's a whole range of things. And there's no real standard regulation on the terms. So there's, yeah, some confusion around what is, are they good, and, you know, what's a good viable. So now, unfortunately, there's you know, some bad properties in some of these alternatives as well. So some plastics, so if you've got something like a degradable plastic, will usually have chemicals inbuilt into that plastic. So they're probably still a petroleum-based plastic, but they've added chemicals so that they fragment. And all they're doing is actually creating microplastics. They're not actually biodegrading, they're just fragmenting. So they're no longer a bag, they don't stay as a bag in the environment, but they just break up into little fragments and create microplastics. And so that is obviously causing a whole range of issues to, you know, every organism that could potentially be ingesting it. So there's yeah, so degradables or oxo-degradable plastics people should avoid. They're actually worse because you're creating microplastics and you're adding extra chemicals to the environment. And so that's a no-no. So yeah, avoid degradable, anything that's labelled degradable or oxo-degradable. And sometimes they call themselves environmentally friendly bags or whatever the product is, but they don't. You need to, as a conscious consumer, we need to be a bit more mindful of you know, how these products are made, and sometimes it's not obvious, unfortunately. But even there is, you know, natural made plastics these days, and they're what we class as your bioplastics. And so they are made from starches or seaweeds, things like that, whether it be potato starch, cornstarch, you know, those type of products. And while they are made from non-petroleum products, natural, you know, that's where the bio term comes from, they can still be problematic because they won't naturally biodegrade if you just leave them on the street, for instance, or in our oceans. So they need really to be composted. So the only standards we have around the world is for compostability of plastics. And so, but with composting, you need temperature for it to degrade. So the bacterial action needs to work under high temperatures, or, you know, temperatures above 50 degree, 55 degrees Celsius, which I don't know what it is in Fahrenheit, but 100 and something, I will say, 130 something.
131.
Oh, there you go. Did you look that up?
Yes, I did not do the math on that.
Good. And so there's, yeah, if you litter, so the cause with bioplastic is, yes, they're made from non-petroleum products, which is a good start. But in terms of recycling, they can't be recycled because they contaminate the recycle stream because they're not a normal polymer, a petroleum-based polymer. And two, they can't be littered because they won't break down. They'll stay as a bag or whatever product they are for unknown time. We don't know. We don't have that information. So that's problematic. So there's some benefits, obviously. Yes, they can be composted. And so we need to be going towards a more commercialized composting process if we are to go to a larger scale process of using these bio-based plastics. So yes, so there's a whole range of issues around these alternatives that we need to be mindful of. So there's no magic bullet that's going to solve the problem of our conventional plastics, unfortunately.
So you mentioned some negative alternatives. Perhaps we end on a high note. And what could the average person do to help contribute to reducing plastic or reducing their footprint?
Sure. There's lots we can do. We, and I mentioned, we're consumers, and so, a lot of the change we've seen in recent years has been driven from the bottom up. It's really driven by us rather than a top-down approach in some places. Yes, there is been some legislative changes around container deposit schemes, like your refund schemes for bottles and cans and things like that, and bag bans and straw bans and various things like that have been enacted in legislation in different states and different countries. A lot of that, though, has been driven by consumer, interest, the general awareness of the public in understanding what the problem is. This single-use plastic issue has driven that, and just the people's concern for social justice and protection of our planet have driven a lot of that as well from the bottom up. So being a conscious consumer is one thing, and so choosing your products will help in that. It's also around spreading the word and educating people around the issues. So, if you are aware that, there's, single-use plastics are an issue, then it's about telling that to your friends, your family, your neighbours, whoever. We all should be, spokespeople for this, I feel. And so the more people, that are aware, it drives that kind of collective change. But then there's responsibilities of governments, of course, but also industry, the manufacturers. And, ultimately we should be moving towards a more circular based economy where we've got, we don't have this linear stream where we, dig up something or mine something, create a product, use it and dispose of it. We need to kind of close that loop and stop, just that wasteful process. And so while recycling's a part of that, it's just about smart design sometimes. And so, trying to work with, and we do this a little bit, we've got some industry partners that we work with in advising them around product design and smart packaging even. As you're probably aware, there's sometimes you get a product where there's there's multiple layers of packaging on that product. Do we really need, all those layers? Some of it's, maybe the aesthetics of the selling of that product. If it's a food product, maybe there's some, food security issues in that, and that's fair enough for some things. But, we need to be, just working, and as I said, working with the producers and pushing back and saying we're not happy with that product, or how that product is packaged, and so letting them know as well will also drive changes, I think, over time. So I think it's a slow process in terms of, we're never going to get away from plastics. I mean, and plastic has been really beneficial for humans generally. Think of all the advances we've made, and in terms of health benefits and travel and all those things, and lifestyle. So I'm not saying all plastics are bad. It's really just a certain type of plastic we need to be conscious of, these single-use plastics, or these poorly designed or poorly packaged products, which we can voice our opinion on. And so those little things, and then it's also about helping out as well. So, getting involved in community projects, or even, supporting research projects where possible. So, if I draw it back to our OzMap program, which is a citizen science project, which is designed around community helping us gather data, then, projects like that could be coming, or if not in your local neighbourhood, could be coming soon. So, helping out where you can is and doing your own bit is always good for not only you, but also the broader community. So there's lots of benefits of that. And so really there's a number of ways people can help out. So really, I don't think it's all doom and gloom. I think we've seen a change, particularly in the last 3 to 5 years. There's been so much growth and awareness of the issues of pollutants and contaminants, and plastic is just one of those that we see. And so, but the power of the people is very strong. It drives, obviously, we are responsible for the election of our politicians, and so the more vocal we can be about an issue, they'll stand up and listen, because that allows them to, I suppose, make some decisions, and positive decisions. So I see a change happening, and it's a global change. I see it everywhere. I travel a lot for work, and I've got a lot of partners around the world, research partners, and they everyone's saying the same thing. They're saying it's happening, and it's not just in the developed countries as well. It's happening in developing countries, and very poor places. So there's a drive for change that's happening around the world, and we can all be part of that. So keep up the good fight is what I say.
Well, very nice. Thank you so much for talking with us, sharing about your research and your projects coming up, and giving us a little hope for change.
Thank you for watching the Future Frogmen Conversation Series. Please check out our website at www.futurefrogmen.org.